Previously, Ange Glaster found herself trapped in a world she never chose, married to the stern and unpredictable Sir Aidan Fitzroy, forced to adjust to life in a remote farmhouse. From chaotic breakfasts to bruised knees, runaway attempts, and tiny moments of unexpected kindness. Now, with new challenges ahead, Angel must navigate this unfamiliar life while under Aidan's watchful eyes. Let's dive in and see what's in store for these two lovebirds. The morning sunlight bathed the yard in a warm, golden glow. Angel's voice drifted through the open door, soft but laced with restlessness. She stood rigid, hands clenched, and Aidan observed her, sensing the brewing storm. Despite her clear frustration, she refused his offer of help. Last night, when she had been vulnerable, she'd allowed him to carry her, but now, with that stubborn pride of hers, she refused to let him get any closer. Aidan sighed, his hand still resting on his waist. "I'm not helping out of kindness," he muttered under his breath. "I'm just clearing the obstacle in my path." Angel, eyes narrowed, tried to push him forward, urging him to go down the stairs first as if she were in control. But Aidan ignored her completely. Without another word, he swept her into his arms. "Just till we reach the bottom of the stairs," Angel protested, cheeks flushed a deep red. She couldn't believe this was happening again. She had been so adamant the night before, and here he was, carrying her as if they hadn't argued just moments ago. Her eyes widened as he continued, "Past the stairs." "I said only the stairs," she shouted, glaring at him, but Aidan was unbothered by her protests. Calm, collected, and with a practiced ease, he carried her through the kitchen door. He placed her gently in a chair, his breath steady, voice low but firm. "From now on, you won't leave my sight, not for a second. I can't have you running off again." Angel's gaze softened. Her eyes drifted downward. She couldn't escape now, not with that swollen ankle of hers. She watched her ankle throb, swollen and tender, pain gnawing at her. Aidan's voice was calm, but insistent. "Let's ice it first, then we'll call a doctor if it gets worse." Angel huffed, puffing her cheeks out, already over the situation. "I asked for one before, but you never called." His reply was matter of fact. "That was fake. This is a real injury." She glared at him, suspicion flaring. He knew all along, didn't he? The realization stung, but she remained quiet. She glanced at her tris, frowning as she spoke. "I can't meet the doctor dressed like this." Aidan scratched the back of his neck, unsure what to say. To him, her outfit looked perfectly fine, far better than what she gave it credit for. The door creaked open as he left to fetch cold water for her ankle. Angel muttered under her breath, almost to herself, "I'm a refined woman. Does he even see me that way?" She caught herself, cheeks warming. Who cares? It's not like I care anyway. It was a lie, and she knew it. When Aidan returned, he wrapped the wet cloth around her swollen ankle, the chill biting sharply into her skin. Her breath caught in her throat. She froze, like metal pressing against her leg. Moments passed as Aidan carefully unwrapped the cloth, his gaze flicking to her face, looking for any sign of relief. "Thank you, it's better," she mumbled shyly. Aidan's gaze flicked to her, unreadable. The silence in the room was thick, uncomfortable. She broke it, unable to stand it. "So, what's for breakfast?" "A traditional breakfast menu," Aidan replied, his tone neutral, as he turned toward the stove. Angel's eyes lit up, the sparkle returning to them. Eggs, sausages, grilled mushrooms, black pudding, and baked beans on the side, he added, a soft smile curling on her lips as she listened to him list it all. She continued on happily, almost forgetting the pain in her ankle. "I like my eggs sunny side up, please." Aidan shrugged casually. "I'll make them how I want." She frowned, her voice softening. "I was eaten by a bear yesterday. Can't you be a bit nicer today?" He stirred the pan slowly, his voice a quiet mutter. "Why be kind to a fool who willingly jumped into the bear's den?" Angel held her spoon tight, pouting like a sulky child. There he went again. He just couldn't help himself, could he? After breakfast, Angel rubbed her stomach with a contented smile. The meal was delicious today. She stared at the food left on her plate, a small frown pulling at her features. I'm worried about my wheat, but I'm a patient, so I must eat well. Looking over at Aiden across the table, she asked softly, "Is there any bread left from yesterday?" Aiden scoffed. "I gave the rest to the pigs. You said you can't eat black bread." She flushed. "It's not that I can't eat it, I just prefer white bread. Everything tastes good." Aiden shut his eyes, exasperated. He was too much drama. "Would you like a cracker instead?" he asked dryly. Angel's face lit up, her eyes sparkling. "Yes!" She clapped her hands like a child receiving a present. She quickly cleared her plate, it shining clean as she finished. "Thank you for the meal, Sir Aiden." When Angel asked about tea, Aiden sighed, barely glancing at her. "I only have cheap black tea, not good enough for you." Angel pressed her hands together, her voice turning soft, almost shy. "Don't be mean, Sir Aiden." Aiden froze for a moment, goosebumps rising on his arms. His eyes flicked to her, side-eyeing her with an unreadable expression. "I'll give you all the tea in the world," he muttered. "Just never use that voice again." Angel gasped, genuinely taken aback. "What? People say I sound like a songbird." Aiden stared at the kettle unaffected. "Then nobles don't know what a songbird sounds like." The kettle bubbled and hissed, the steam filling the room as the tension settled into silence. Aiden's gaze drifted away, fixed on something far off as he waited for the water to boil. "Your tone changed today," he murmured, his voice low as he glanced back at her. Angel raised a brow, clearly intrigued. "What happened to my tone?" "Unusual," Aiden worded, filling the cups. "Not annoying, like usual." "I was never annoying," her voice shot up in disbelief, and Aiden's calm response surprised her. "Yes," he replied, simply, still not looking at her, eyes focused on his coffee. "I was never annoying," she snapped, her pride flaring. He didn't even bat an eye, his response flat. "This is what real nobles sound like," she insisted, her voice tinged with a little more force. Aiden leaned back against the counter, smirking. "Spending some time at the Imperial Palace made me think some sounded just as annoying as you," he teased, his eyes glinting with amusement. "But not all." "You don't have to mention the word annoying all the time," she huffed, sipping her coffee with both hands, hoping to calm the irritation bubbling inside her. Shocked, Angel couldn't help but ask, "You spent time at the Imperial Palace?" "Yes, for work," he answered nonchalantly, scratching the back of his neck, suddenly aware that he'd said too much. Her mind raced. She knew illegitimate children were rarely accepted, unless their mother had noble blood. He was accepted, given a title, even welcomed into the Imperial Palace? She stared at him, confusion clouding her thoughts. Who was this man? Was this why Prince Philip hated him so much? Aiden's voice sliced through her thoughts. "If you're done, let's head out," he said, his tone flat and almost indifferent. Angel blinked, her hand flying to her chest in disbelief. "Head out? Me too?" "Yes, you too," he replied without missing a beat. "No way. My skin will burn, my hair will tangle, I'll look like you." "I don't care," Aiden said, his voice impassive as he wrapped his arms around her, lifting her with ease. She tried once more, asking for a parasol or at least a hat, but he was already leading her out the door. The bonnet he handed her looked ridiculous with her outfit, but it was the only option. She leaned against the tree that shielded her from the blazing sun, sitting on the mat, quietly watching him. The bonnet didn't match her clothes, but it was still far better than the straw hat Aiden had given her earlier, which had covered her face entirely, leaving her blind. She was sure he had smiled when he said it looked good on her. She couldn't prove it, but she felt it, just for a moment. Why would he even want to leave the house on a day like this? She murmured to herself, looking at him with curiosity. The sun is far too strong. Her gaze drifted to him, watching as he plucked the crops he had worked so tirelessly to grow. She frowned softly, wondering why he would be doing that on such a hot day, but she was tired, so she decided to ask him later. Then a gentle breeze stirred, blowing strands of hair across her face. "Thank God for the breeze," she sighed, grateful for the coolness that comforted her, unlike the merciless sun. Slowly, she sank deeper onto the mat, giving in to the warmth and exhaustion. If her second tutor could see her now, they'd scold her, telling her to act like a duke's daughter. But here, there was no one to remind her who she was supposed to be. It was just her and Aiden. A small smile tugged at her lips, but as her eyes wandered over the landscape, something caught her attention. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw a flower she had never seen before, vibrant and delicate. "What's that?" she whispered, reaching out with cautious fingers. She plucked it gently, her heart light as she admired its beauty. She smiled with a soft, almost girlish wonder, then removed her bonnet, placing the flower on it quietly, giving it a fragile kind of beauty. Not bad at all, Angel thought, a small smile tugging at her lips. The bonnet looked adorable now, crowned with the delicate flower she had placed. She imagined adding smaller blooms, tiny bursts of color to complete the look, but her swollen leg reminded her of reality. Her smile faded as she groaned, staring at the painful ankle. "So bad," she whispered, pain brushing her voice. Resigned, she lay back again, closing her eyes. She would have to ask Sir Aiden for help later. Then something rolled across the ground. A tiny bug, pushing a small sphere of treasure, caught her attention. She sat upright, curiosity overtaking discomfort. "Wow!" Both hands pressed to her cheeks. She admired its determination. So small, yet so purposeful. Another bug appeared. Perhaps a friend, she thought. But suddenly, the second bug shoved the ball away from the first. Angel's expression twisted into anger. That first bug had the ball. It wasn't fair. She watched intently as the first bug reclaimed its prize, their struggle unfolding with relentless persistence. Her soft, urgent voice encouraged the little warrior. "Bug, don't give up." She remembered all too well what it felt like when someone took her place. Aiden's voice interrupted her, cutting through her concentration. Angel froze, her words caught in her throat. Heat rushed to her cheeks and she quickly covered her face with her hands, but it was too late. He had already seen everything. "You've been cheering for dung beetles?" he asked, a faint smile playing at his lips. She argued indignantly, insisting she wasn't enjoying it, then paused mid-protest. "Wait, beetles?" she gasped. "Dung beetles," he corrected matter-of-factly. Her face flamed hotter. "What?" she cried, voice high and shrill. "It's not mud," he added smoothly. "It's cow dung." Angel pressed her hands over her ears, shaking her head furiously. "I don't want to hear it." He teased further, suggesting maybe it was horse dung instead. "Stop it," she shrieked. "You shouldn't say such filthy things in front of a lady." The beetles ignored their quarrel entirely, still fighting over the tiny ball. Angel's horror turned to fascination. "And what do they even use it for?" she asked. "They bring it home to eat," Aiden replied calmly, as if stating the most natural fact in the world. Her nose wrinkled in disgust. He smirked. "They clean the environment, unlike you." You're worse!" Turning back to the beetles, she whispered, a mix of disbelief and amusement. "So these two are fighting over manure?" Aiden nodded, nonchalant. Suddenly, Angel erupted into helpless, loud laughter, clutching her stomach as the absurdity of it all overtook her. Aiden's lips twitched. He hadn't laughed that loud and he couldn't remember when. "How could they fight like that? I thought it was gold," she exclaimed between giggles. Aiden bent closer, voice low and teasing. "They're just preparing their meal. Maybe we should too." She blinked at him, curiosity flickering. "And what are we having?" He grinned faintly, teasing her about a ball of minced meat, and she shouted, half in indignation, half in laughter. She caught the faint scent of grass lingering on him, grounding and fresh. Her heart skipped. Perhaps when she returned to the capital, she would ask her perfumer to recreate this scent.
Later that day, Aiden's steady gaze found hers. "What troubles you?" he asked calmly. Angel pouted. "Are you really asking me that right now?" "Yes," he replied, unfazed. He reminded her silently. He had made her lunch, fetched a doctor, and helped her dress. So what was her problem? Her voice suddenly sharpened. "You tied me up before you left." "That's because of what you did in the past," he muttered. Her mind flashed back. She had screamed for him to let her go, but Aiden had ignored her, merely gesturing toward the doctor. "This way," he had said. Her outburst had left the doctor startled. The doctor leaned closer, whispering in Aiden's ear, "Who is this lady?" Aiden sighed, a flicker of worry crossing his otherwise calm features. He had thought that paying the old man off would keep everything quiet, that the matter would be settled. But now, complications had grown too tangled to ignore. Angel's voice rang sharp and frustrated from where she sat. "Even if I wanted to run, I can't. My ankle is sprained." Aiden blinked, unmoved. He had seen soldiers with far worse injuries still running. A sprained ankle was, to him, a minor obstacle. Angel's pout deepened, her frustration written across every line of her face. She raged, declaring she wasn't a soldier, and being tied up like an animal was unjust, all because he couldn't trust her. "Where are you going?" Aiden asked, his voice calm but firm. "Aren't I allowed to go to my room?" She shot back, gripping her walking stick and forcing herself forward. Her ankle dragged with every step, yet she pressed on stubbornly. "What about dinner?" he called after her. "I'm not hungry," she replied flatly, pausing for just a moment before adding, softer this time, "What's for dinner?" "Egg and carrot sandwich, made with toasted white bread and herb butter." Her stomach betrayed her, already tasting it, yet she fought the urge. "No, I don't feel like eating," she insisted, though her eyes betrayed her doubt. He smirked knowingly. "Caramel for dessert. The store has new stock." Angel paused, swaying slightly. She agreed to take just one piece. But he remembered something important. "Oh, you had a letter." She tried to turn, but her foot slipped and she fell right into his arms. His hand caught her waist, steadying her. "That hurts," she cried. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she muttered, a hint of exasperation in her tone. "You've been ignoring me all afternoon," he shot back. But she accused him of treating her like a prisoner first. Her anger melted slowly, softening her features. "I won't run anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Please, trust me." Aiden's sharp gaze didn't waver. "Your eyes are filled with lies," he stated plainly. She pushed him gently, the frustration in her movements clear, yet he remained too perceptive for her comfort. "You're too sharp for your own good," she muttered under her breath. He handed her the letter. Angel smashed it quickly, muttering that she'd eat in her room. She must miss her family, Aiden thought, the memory of his own solitude at the Imperial Palace stirring quietly in his chest. The food was carefully arranged in a basket, already prepared. He handed it to her with a single warning: "Do not leave too many crumbs on the bed." She complained that he nagged too much as she took it from him, then giggled softly, teasing, Okay, I'll be careful." He stood there, momentarily unsure of what to say, watching her wobbly figure ascend the stairs. She glanced back at him once, a faint nod escaping her. "Thank you, for now," she said quietly. Aiden raised an eyebrow. "For leaving a potty in your room?" he asked, puzzled. She spun around, eyes wide, denying ever using such a thing. "I'm thanking you for calling the doctor. And for the letter," she said softly. He scratched the back of his head, muttering, It's nothing." The silence stretched between them, heavy and awkward. Angel finally reached her room carrying the basket and set it down with care. The food looked tempting, delicious even. Her thoughts drifted immediately to Aiden. He wasn't like other nobles. Rough around the edges, yes, but competent, reliable, and somehow annoyingly decent. She shook her head, chastising herself. "Focus, Angel. You have the letter to read." Her hands trembled as she opened it. No name was written on the envelope, leaving her to wonder if it had been sent anonymously to avoid annoying the Emperor. Her eyes widened as she read the sharp words, each line piercing her like a dagger. Her body trembled, disbelief clawing at her chest. Fingers tightening, she crumbled the edges of the paper, anger bubbling as she hurled it across the room. The letter mocked her with perfumed politeness, asking after her health, congratulating her on her marriage. But the cruelty didn't stop there. It went on, claiming the capital, pitied her, striking her chest with shame. And finally, the words dripped with bitter poison. I got engaged myself. I should follow your humble, quiet wedding example. But my fiancé adores me, the letter boasted, flaunting that the jewels were so heavy she might stumble under their weight. I hate her! I hate her! Angel screamed, ripping the paper into shreds. Even torn, the words clung to her mind like poison, taunting her with promises of sending discarded dresses as gifts. The ending mocked her cruelly, urging her to accept the gift for old friendship's sake. Angel froze, chest tightening. How could anyone know her address or her current circumstances when only her closest friends had that information? Could one of them have betrayed her? A sharp headache hammered at her temples, every thought a restless torment. She wanted to flee to the capital now, immediately, but how? She sank to her knees, hair tumbling forward as tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Staring out the window, the reality sunk in. Her father, her trusted friend, both had turned against her. No one stood with her. But then slowly, a spark of resolve ignited. If no one would stand with her, she would stand for herself.
Outside, the weather shone bright. The sun cast warm, golden light over the courtyard. Aiden stepped inside Angel's room, basket in hand. He had intended to wash the bed sheets. The weather was perfect for it. But he froze at the sight of a dress draped across a chair. "What a mess," he muttered, eyes narrowing at the purple fabric. He reached for it cautiously, thinking she probably didn't know how to wash it. Reluctantly, he added it to his basket, resigning himself to wash it as well. "I would have requested child support, not a dowry," he thought bitterly. Days passed. Angel sat beneath the shade of a tree, frustration coiling tight in her chest. No matter how she tried to think, no clever idea came. Perhaps she could train Aiden's horse to take her to the capital, but she didn't know how to ride. Maybe walking to town? She thought back to her prior attempt, a slight confidence stirring, until the memory of the forest snake made her shiver. Another thought crossed her mind. Follow Aiden when he went to town and slip away to the capital. But he was ever watchful. He would catch her like a mischievous child and toss her back into the house without mercy. Maybe he's right, she mused. I only get these strange ideas because I never leave my room. Not that he allowed her solitude. Aiden's eyes were always on her, even while he worked in the fields. Just the night before, when she had stepped out to fetch water, she had nearly screamed upon finding him waiting there, kettle in hand. Should she be grateful he hadn't locked her in her room? Perhaps, but now doubts crept in. He probably wouldn't risk taking her outside the farm, not since he had summoned the doctor. She bit her nails, thoughts racing. How could she change his mind? Could she seduce him? Her fan signaling skills, she realized, would be useless. With Aiden, nothing ever worked. He would simply ask if she was feeling hot or something. Their time together had taught her one thing. He wasn't interested. Not in the way she imagined. Does he even see me as a woman? She fumed, eyes following him carefully. Or is he attracted to ugly girls? She speculated, detective mode fully activated. That must be it. How could he possibly resist her stunning beauty? Her gaze drifted to the flower in her hair. She remembered its name now, recalling the day he had handed her a book to find it. He had told her to look it up herself and, failing that, to ask him. She frowned at the memory, annoyed at his subtle impatience, the way he acted as if she were a minor nuisance. But she had obeyed anyway. Angel's eyes lingered on the name Nancy Dilton, wondering if Sir Aidan's mother had drawn the delicate illustration. She moved on to the next flowers. Crocus, primrose, wild tulip, letting the list pull her mind from its worries. A spark of curiosity pushed her to consider checking the other side for more blooms. Rising carefully, she brushed the dust from her dress, a small act of independence she hadn't dared before. She remembered the last time she had asked Aidan to clean her dress. He had scolded her sharply, calling the request shameful. But now, sitting under the tree, alone with the garden's quiet charm, she felt a rare ease. Her thoughts drifted to the first time she had watched dung beetles laboring in the soil, butterflies flitting busily, and birds building nests with meticulous care. Even the simplest acts of nature no longer seemed dull. Picking flowers she liked while staying within Aidan's watchful gaze brought her a small, unexpected joy. She had once considered such people boring. Now nature felt alive, delightful, almost magical. She held a flower in her hand, turning it over in awe, when Aidan called out, "Shall we go for lunch?" "Yes," she responded enthusiastically. She followed him back toward the house. Her ankle felt stronger with each step, the dull ache easing. Lunch promised apple pie, given the abundance in storage, and her eyes lit up with anticipation at the thought of pairing it with milk ice cream. She reminded herself to eat moderately. Apparently, she needed to maintain her shape. But within moments, her plate lay empty, polished to a gleaming shine. Aidan noted her quick consumption, then mentioned they wouldn't go outside because of chores. Surprisingly, she accepted this without complaint. He hesitated, unsure if she should exert herself, then added, "You can stay on the back porch if you wish." Angel froze, delight blooming in her chest as she spotted the rocking chair. "Can I sit here?" she asked, and he simply nodded. She beamed with joy, then darted to it eagerly, sinking into the chair with the joy of a child, rocking back and forth with abandon. Her contentment was interrupted when Aidan appeared, holding a cloth, asking if it could be washed in hot water. Her eyes widened. Did he really intend to wash that? Calmly, he raised it, a small undergarment, and acted as if nothing was unusual.
"Why would you do that?" Angel demanded, snatching it away. Aidan raised both hands, placating her. "I only wanted to wash it," he said evenly, unfazed by her indignation. Her cheeks flushed crimson. Why would he even consider such a thing? He side-eyed her. "Clothes are to be washed regularly. Fairies don't come to clean them for you." She shot back in defense, claiming she knew that. But her face flushed as she totally forgot she wasn't back in the capital, where maids washed her clothes for her. Her gaze fell on the basket of clothes. She asked if they were hers. Aidan only looked at her, amused, pointing out that they hadn't been washed since she arrived. She reached for them, insisting she could manage, but Aidan doubted her competence. "Just soak them in water and take them out, right?" she asked stubbornly. Aidan sighed, lifting the basket inside while she tugged at him, protesting. "Give them to me, I'll wash them myself." Seeing he wasn't ready to give in, she pressed further. "At least let me wash my undergarments." Now I see. No wonder you wanted the chores." He handed the basket to her, granting a reluctant victory. Annoyance flared. "You shouldn't touch my clothes without permission. Please respect my boundaries." He defended himself. It was piled up on the floor. "I thought you wanted them washed." Angel's cheeks turned scarlet. "There are still ladies' undergarment," she exclaimed. He admitted he had overlooked that detail because he had never thought of her as a lady. She asked if he saw her as a gentleman or something else entirely. He looked at her, impassive, and responded that, in his eyes, she wasn't even human, more like a dog. Hearing this, Angel barked at him in outrage. "A dog? Really?" Aidan smirked. "I didn't mean a dog in that sense," he said, voice teasing. Her frown deepened as he continued, explaining that, to him, she resembled the tiny companion dogs that nobles in the capital carried, pampered, delicate, and slightly mischievous. Angel had grudgingly accepted her new title as a Cocker Spaniel with soft fur, but Aiden wasn't finished correcting her. "A tiny barking chihuahua, actually, especially when it growls," he said casually. Angel shot up, fiery, indignant, her voice sharp. To Aiden, she was no different from a chihuahua snapping at his heels, and her eyes blazed, "What did you just say?" He only saw a tiny Doug barking louder, teasing her with the nickname Lady Chihuahua. Angel's face flushed crimson as she shouted in protest. Around them, water splashed from the laundry, soaking her clothes. Her arms, already tired from scrubbing, protested with every motion. "Is this enough?" she panted, and Aiden nodded silently. Then she turned to him, breathless. "Can we hang them now?" Aiden's hands were planted firmly on his waist as he instructed her to wring them first, warning her carefully to mind her fingers. She kept panting, sweat on her forehead, while he lectured on the importance of sunlight for white clothes. When he glanced at her, the sight of her exhaustion made him pause. He imagined how much harder it would be without the tools. She would definitely pass out if she knew they weren't available in some country home. Angel flung the wet clothes onto the rope with a dramatic sigh, and Aiden immediately scolded her. He nagged about how she was spreading them wrong, while she pouted, lips pressed in stubborn silence. When the laundry was finally done, she sank into the rocking chair, gasping. "This is torture. Laundry maids should be paid double for this," she complained, massaging her aching arms. Aiden noted only the undergarment had been washed, asking if she'd like to do her dress like she wanted. But Angela pointed at him, insisting she'd leave that for him. He smiled, knowingly. Of course she would. But her next words startled him. She yelled for him never to touch her underwear again. Well, that worked for him. "I'll clean my room myself," she promised, "and leave my laundry in the hallway just so you won't come in." He raised an eyebrow, surprised. She was actually making progress. Angel, on the other hand, sighed, hands pressed to her cheeks. Progress felt more like a downfall to her. Leaning closer, he bent down, smirking. "You've been upgraded from a Chihuahua to a Yorkshire Terrier." And she asked what the difference was. He explained that, while both are aggressive, the Yorkshire Terrier at least had beauty and was useful to farmers for catching rats. She grumbled, wondering why she even asked. Angel ignored him, rubbing her sore arm and muttering about his refusal to provide servants. Aiden turned and strode back towards the house, her temper flaring at the slight. He noted to himself that he was better off without company, even though servants wouldn't have been unwelcome. He chuckled at the irony of his own life, married, yet wishing for solitude. "Maybe it's a blessing in disguise she doesn't give me time for useless thoughts," he murmured to himself, reaching for a bottle of buttermilk, considering teaching Angel to remove ink stains with it. As he approached, he froze. Angel had dozed off in the garden, the breeze gently lifting strands of her hair. He tapped her shoulder, urging her to her room, but she didn't stir. A second time, he called, "Lady Chihuahua, Lady Yorkie," and still no response. He had no choice. Gently, he bent down, lifting her tiny frame into his arms. For a moment, he studied her sleeping form, and a thought crossed his mind. Maybe she would be cute as a dog after all. Carefully, he walked, taking measured steps to avoid waking her. Upon reaching her room, he knelt, placing her delicately on the bed. For once, she was quiet, serene, soft, and undeniably cute. "She'd look adorable if she could sleep like this all day," he murmured, tucking her in with a rare gentleness. "Well done today, Lady Ange."
Outside, sunlight streamed through the window, carrying the lively chirping of birds. Angel stirred, shifting slightly in her sleep, until, with a sudden jolt, her eyes snapped open, wide and alert. Angel stretched both arms above her head and exclaimed triumphantly, "Eureka!" She glanced around, blinking at her surroundings. How had she ended up in her room after dozing off in the garden? Had she sleepwalked all the way inside? She tucked herself neatly under the covers, feeling a strange sense of pride. No time to waste, she sprang from the bed, brushing her hair hastily in the mirror, eager to catch Sir Aiden as he moved into the kitchen. She finished in record time and bolted from her room. She was eager to be there before him, only to find him already striding toward the kitchen. Perfect timing. Aiden adjusted his sleeve upon seeing her, asking if she woke up early because she missed dinner last night, eyes briefly studying her eager movements. Holding her gown carefully at the sides, Angel approached him, her small frame moving with unusual purpose. Aiden stepped back, wary. "Do you need help with something?" he asked. She looked up, blunt and determined. "Give me some work!" That was her first step in gaining his trust. He blinked, confused. "Work?" "I want to help with the chores," she clarified quickly, recalling the approving smile on his face when he had upgraded her from a Chihuahua to a Yorkshire Terrier. Seeing him happy while she worked sparked a new idea, her ticket to the capital perhaps. A hint of suspicion flickered in Aiden's eyes, but Angel's sweet smile and innocent tone denied any mischief. She placed a hand over her chest. "I just want to help. I gave you extra work yesterday, didn't I?" Aiden's brow furrowed. He said she was too carefree and simple to think of such a considerate gesture out of nowhere. She wanted to yell, but tempered herself. Trust had to be earned. Instead, she told him she wasn't as simple-minded as he felt. "I'm your wife," she said softly. "I have to contribute to the household." He remained skeptical. "You only want my trust so you can run away," he stated flatly. Angel's heart skipped a beat. "I'm so screwed. How did he know?" She lowered her eyes, giving a pleading, puppy-like expression. He paused, wondering if he could trust her. Then, he agreed, to Angel's shock. Finally, he handed her a basket. "Collect the eggs from the chicken coop." Angel blinked, startled. "Eggs? That's it?" "Yes," he replied, eyes sharp. "Close the door behind you so the chickens don't escape. And take off your gloves," he added. She nodded, obedient, and left with the basket. While he stood, observing her movements closely as she left, Aiden muttered under his breath, "What an obvious lie," noting her eager compliance. Minutes later, she returned, feathers stuck in her hair and a triumphant basket of eggs in hand. Aiden stepped forward, brushing the feathers from her hair and pulling the basket closer, asking what had happened. She cried, "They kept attacking me. Every time I tried to pick an egg, one pecked at me." He raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Strange, they've never done that to me." Maybe it thinks you're a stranger," he suggested, blinking. Brushing the last feather aside, he explained patiently that she would get used to it, but Angel's eyes sparkled with stubborn defiance. She didn't want to get used to this kind of work. "And this," he added casually, "you'll be doing every day." Her jaw dropped, shocked. Aiden smirked. "Or you could clean the coop instead." She shook her head vehemently. "No! I love picking eggs! I will not clean the coop!" He nodded, amused, and instructed her to get ready for the next task. "Something else?" she asked nervously, forcing a small smile as they stepped into the open air. He handed her a bowl and placed his hand nearby. "Crack the eggs into the bowl." Angel tried, but her first attempt was disastrous. She practically threw the egg into the bowl. Shells splattered across the counter, yolk dripping onto her hands. She turned to him, panicked. "Did I do it right?" Aiden covered his face, exasperated. She noticed he was visibly trembling. He gathered himself and cleared his throat, suggesting that he should have explained better. "Hold the egg, tap the middle on the edge of the table, like this, then split the shells apart." Angel tried again, this time cracking a perfect egg. Her face lit up with pride. "I did it!" Aiden teased lightly. "I do it like that when I cook. Haven't you been watching?" She defended herself immediately. "You're too big, you block my view." Aiden guided her to a chair, explaining that it would be better for her to watch from the side, his tall frame casting a protective shadow over her. He demonstrated how to mix the egg whites and yolks thoroughly, and Angel's curiosity bubbled over. "What are we making?" she asked eagerly. "A traditional omelet," he replied simply.
A smile broke across her face. "I like omelets," she said, and Aiden couldn't help but feel pleased that she enjoyed the first meal they were preparing together. As they strained the eggs through a sieve, Aiden explained that they had to sift so it became silkier. Together, they melted butter in the pan, the rich, comforting aroma filling the kitchen. In truth, the real reason she liked omelets was because it was her mom's favorite dish, not like she really liked it. Maybe this was her way of trying to stay connected to her mother. Angel stretched her leg beside him, watching every motion intently, soaking in the process. After their meal, they headed outside to tend to the pigs. Aiden folded his arms, observing her pause mid-task. "You said you wanted work, Lady Ange," he remarked dryly. Angel frowned. She hadn't expected the chores to pile up this quickly. Maybe she shouldn't have offered to work. As she fed the pigs, she sighed dreamily, bending down to observe them more closely. "I wish I could be like them. Lazy, spoiled, always fed." She tilted her head. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "Do they have names?" Aiden hadn't thought of that. "No," he replied lazily. Angel crouched, studying the pink-skinned pigs thoughtfully. "Then their names should start with a P," she declared. He scratched the back of his neck. "Can we go to the field now?" he asked, though he kept a watchful eye on her. She walked alongside him, doing her best to keep up with his long strides. She had never worked on a field before, and Aiden pointed out that it wasn't breaking news. He stole glances at her when she wasn't looking, her small smile tugging at something he couldn't name. Yet beneath the surface, he couldn't bring himself to tell her that the pigs they were feeding would eventually be eaten.
Angel's mind drifted briefly, memories of her life in the capital intruding. She recalled sitting stiffly on a royal chair, her tutors instructing her in the arts of being a lady. She had once asked innocently what it meant to be a lady, and she listed dancing, playing the piano, etiquette, and painting. She recalled one time when she had been running. Her tutor, kneeling before her, had scolded her, insisting that a proper lady should never run, never walk too fast. She remembered growing up under that heavy rule, always careful to avoid drawing attention, never daring to express her emotions boldly. The constraints had left her weary, longing for a life where she could study geography or math instead, a life free from the suffocating decorum of nobility. She sighed, lying on a couch, imagining escape from it all, knowing her strict tutor would never permit such freedom. Watching her tutor talk to her father, she realized there was no other. It was the only way to get her father's attention. As she ran through the hallway in her thoughts, she recalled the constant pressure to meet her father's expectations. She quickly reduced her steps. She had learned to move with care, preparing herself for the role of perfect empress-to-be. Snapping out of her reverie, she plucked a stubborn weed near the garden path, unsure if it truly needed removing. She called out to Aiden, holding the plant carefully. "Is this really a weed?" He glanced down at her in frustration. He had just taught her. She explained that she was worried about pulling out the carrot seedlings. Once she had confirmation, she scampered back to her previous spot, determined to continue her work. Minutes passed with Angel peppering him with questions, complaining about how she couldn't get the roots out properly. Aiden bent down, secretly regretting that he had assigned her to work in the first place. She pressed on carefully, lips tight with determination, unwilling to provoke him too many questions. But he could tell that's what she was thinking and couldn't get mad at her. He reflected on how he handled new recruits in the military, one who had foolishly asked if he could consume clearly marked dangerous supplies. But it turned out he couldn't read. After that, Aiden had learned to mark containers carefully, ensuring mistakes wouldn't happen. Angel leaned forward, stretching to reach the stubborn weeds ahead of her. Suddenly, a worm wriggled free from the soil, and she froze in shock. In a reflex, she leapt onto Sir Aiden's chest, shouting, "There's a bug!" Aiden carefully adjusted her position, keeping a firm but gentle hold. "Don't be harsh on them," he said calmly. "It's more helpful than you." She shot back, demanding if he was seriously saying she was more useless than a bug. Angel asked eagerly if they really were helpful. He explained patiently, detailing how the tiny creatures enriched the earth. He tossed the worm aside with the shovel as she watched close by. Curiosity brightening her features, she asked where he had learned all this knowledge.
He explained that he read many books about agriculture while he was still at the capital. In truth, he read a wide range of books, from geology to biology, while hiding from the crown prince and others who disliked him. He asked if she wasn't taught about such things. Angel shrugged, lowering her head. Noble ladies weren't taught about dirt or bugs. We were taught to dance, paint, and stuff like that. Aiden tilted his head, mocking gently. And yet all that dancing hasn't made you any stronger. Happily, Angel pointed to the weed she had successfully pulled, a triumphant grin on her face. Aiden praised her, impressed by her first attempt. She finally asked why they had to pick them, which he explained that they were harmful to the crops. Reaching for another weed, he explained that many, like clovers, were actually beneficial to the soil. He instructed her to always throw them in a bucket when done, but she questioned, why not leave them to rot? He said they'd grow again if left. She seemed to be enjoying the lessons, asking further questions, and Aiden seemed to enjoy tutoring her as well. Angel's curiosity blossomed. She gathered a few leafy veins, which Aiden explained were harmful to the soil, but could be used for medicine. She wanted to collect them, but he said they already had a lot in the attic. "We've got an attic?" she asked. He nodded, explaining that he stores dry fruits and vegetables there, as well as useless stuff. Excitement sparked in her eyes. "Can I go there?" "After we finish our work," he agreed. She dashed off to complete her chores quickly, pointing at him with mock severity, calling him lazy and urging him to get back to work. Aiden was amused. Him lazy? Aiden completed his task with a small smile on his face. He planned a minor revenge, onions only for lunch.
The attic held a special allure for her. Memories surfaced. She had once hidden there as a child, hugging her knees while her maids tried to lure her out with snacks. She grinned at the recollection, proud that no one had found her. Back then, she had run despite warnings, seeking a sanctuary where no one could control her. But one day, her small haven was locked down. Her maids tried to scare her with stories that insects would crawl through her ears and eat her brain if she kept going there, adding that a young master had been trapped there and killed by a mouse. Those stories had successfully scared her from going there. Now, at the farmhouse attic, she peered inside. The room wasn't dark or foreboding. It was beautiful, almost inviting. "Wow," she whispered, lowering her chest to explore. She lifted a bag, only for items to spill onto the floor. Frustrated, she bent down, fuming. Some of the items had writing on them. Picking up one, she noticed they were seeds. "Were those flowers?" she murmured. A few days later, her voice rang with triumph. "Jackpot!" She had found a massive weed and ran to show Aiden, waving it in front of his face. He congratulated her on a job well done. She showed him the tool she used. "It's called a cobra head, right?" she asked. Before he could respond, she had already dashed off, clearly reveling in the work. Her cheeks flushed, chest heaving with exertion, yet a sense of accomplishment filled her. She realized she had grown overnight, finally able to distinguish the plants around her. Bending her head, she smiled, exhausted but proud. When she glanced at Aiden, she cried out, complaining of aches from the work. He bent down, guiding her to look at the plants, showing her that several had grown an inch overnight thanks to her effort. She stared at him in amazement, understanding that she was truly improving. Stealing a glance, she saw that he wasn't the harsh, impatient man she knew. He was patient, careful, and encouraging. Every compliment he offered made her heart swell. Angel realized with a quiet joy that she was not just learning, she was thriving under his guidance. Sir Aiden praised her, saying she had done well, and Angel's eyes widened with pride. She had pulled the weeds perfectly. Then he invited her to lunch, and she was surprised it was time to eat already. Curious, she asked what he had prepared, and he explained that he had packed a picnic basket. As he called her to follow him, she asked where they were headed. He mentioned a beautiful spot nearby. On getting to the spot, Angel dipped her hands into the water to wash her face, making little splashes along the way. The spot he chose was stunning, butterflies dancing gracefully around them. She wiped her face with a towel and motioned for him to sit. He, however, preferred the grass beneath him. She felt a bit awkward after working hard today, as she felt that they'd grow closer. The food was carefully laid on the mat, looking delicious, and she commented on the lovely weather.
He noted, "It'll get even better and the flowers will bloom beautifully in about a month." Pointing toward the trees near her room, he identified them as apple trees. Blushing, she realized she had never seen them bloom. Scratching the ground absent-mindedly, he explained the different types of apple trees and elaborated that when the flowers bloomed heavily, it was a beauty to see. The branches would bend under their weight and shine from the reflection of moonlight. For a moment, Angel wondered if she could abandon her plans of running away and stay to witness the blooms, but quickly dismissed the thought, lowering her head and feeling a twinge of guilt. She tried to change the topic, asking for something to drink, and he admitted he had forgotten to bring some along, blaming her playfully for spilling the pepper shaker earlier. She watched him confused by his antics as he fumbled with something in the bush. With a flourish, he revealed an ice cream-shaped cup, instructing her to use it. Excited, she asked how he had made it. Scratching the back of his neck, he simply explained that he had opened a can of worms. Sitting across from her, he patiently detailed the process, and Angel listened with wide eyes, thrilled by the clever cup. Later at home, he approached her door, knocking gently and calling her name. Receiving no answer, he knocked again, wondering if she could hear him. Back in the kitchen, she mentioned going to take a bath, but it's been 2 hours since then. He imagined she might have dozed off in the bathtub. Concern flickered through his mind. If she had truly fallen asleep there, she could risk hypothermia. Closing his eyes, he decided he had no choice but to enter. The door creaked as he stepped inside, eyes closed out of respect for her privacy, calling her name softly once more. Crawling carefully toward the bathtub, his hand brushed against the hem of her dress. Thankfully, she was properly clothed. Peeking with one eye, he was shocked to find her sitting with her head resting on the edge of the tub. He draped a cloth over her and wondered how she could manage to fall asleep anywhere. Gently, he gathered her into his arms, feeling the thin fabric of her gown and realizing why she always seemed so self-conscious in it. His thoughts drifted to the recruits who carried paintings of women in thin skirts. He had never understood their fascination until now. Angel shivered in his arms, prompting him to adjust his hold to steady her. The door creaked again as he carried her to her room, laying her down carefully and tucking her in properly. Observing her, he reminded himself that he had no intention of exploiting her. She showed no signs of fatigue and her eyes weren't swollen, but he observed that she was skinny and he considered giving her fresh milk instead of just meat. He groaned softly, wishing he could reduce her workload, but she always grew annoyed when he tried. He remembered her warning. He would call her a chihuahua, or worse, a Yorkie, if she wasn't working. Yet here she was, sleeping soundly from sheer exhaustion. His hand hovered toward her, questioning why he cared so much, why he kept stealing glances at her. He pulled back, shaking his head, convincing himself that he only took care of her out of responsibility. He tried to convince himself it was the guilt he felt for his comrades he couldn't protect. He didn't take care of her because he liked her, right? It's okay, Ian. We know you're already falling for our girl. Just as he was about to leave, a faint voice reached him. He turned towards her, wanting to be sure he heard correctly. It was Angel, whispering in her sleep, tears brimming in her eyes. "Don't go." Aiden froze, his heart tightening as he watched her. Sitting carefully by her bedside, he studied her restless form, brushing her hair gently in an attempt to calm her. Then, abruptly, he pulled back. Staring at his own hands, he muttered under his breath that it wasn't as if he could console her anyway. Lowering his head, he reasoned that she must be dreaming of someone she missed, perhaps her ex-fiancé. The thought struck him sharply, and he scolded himself for even thinking it. What am I thinking right now? In her dream, Angel opened her eyes faintly, spotting her father walking into the bushes. She called out to him, but he didn't turn. Running after him, she cried desperately, "Don't go." But he continued on, never stopping. Stumbling and falling, she sobbed, convinced that everyone was leaving her. Then a gentle hand patted her head. Was it Sir Aiden? She gasped awake, heart racing, realizing it had only been a dream. In the kitchen, Aiden handed her a cup of milk. She asked why, and he explained that the cow had given more than they could drink, so it shouldn't go to waste. When she asked if he wouldn't drink any, he shook his head, saying he didn't like milk, but in truth, there wasn't enough for both of them. Slowly, she sipped the milk drop by drop, a grin spreading across her face as she teased that he thought he gave it out of care. "No way," he replied, turning to clean the plates, leaving her to lower her gaze. She almost asked if he really had patted her head last night, but dismissed it as just a dream. She asked what they would be doing in the fields today, and Aiden explained they would weed, fertilize the soil, and replant the tomato plants, noting that properly spaced crops grew stronger and bore better fruit. Her eyes lit up, and she eagerly suggested replanting the carrots and beets, too. Aiden warned that it could harm the roots, and she sat back, realizing how much more complicated planting was than she had thought. Curious, she asked why he had never planted flowers.
Aiden paused, hand brushing his chin as memories surfaced. His mother had once scattered flower seeds when she was alive, many of which grew beautifully in the yard and garden. He had often watched her enjoy painting them, but after her death, his grandfather destroyed them all because they brought back painful memories. Aiden had almost forgotten that flowers had ever grown in the house. Narrowing his eyes, he admitted that he had never thought about flowers since. Angel's expression softened, and she suggested filling the empty plots with small, colorful flowers. Aiden sighed, wiping the table, agreeing only as long as it remained manageable. Angel proposed starting with seeds she had seen in the attic. Quickly, she covered her mouth, as if she had said too much. Aiden gave her a questioning look, and she explained hurriedly that she was merely storing her luggage. Grabbing the cup from the table, he realized the seeds might belong to his mother, and he agreed to check them later. Angel's excitement was palpable as she asked to accompany him while holding the cup. She almost dropped it in her enthusiasm, but he caught it with ease and scolded gently. "Focus on the work at hand." She nodded earnestly. Sitting across from each other, they had just finished selecting the tomato plants to be replanted. Exhausted from the work, Angel rested on the table. But even the thought of tomato dishes lifted her spirits, giving her encouragement. Suddenly, she gasped, wondering if she would still be here when the tomatoes ripened. She asked about the harvest, and Aiden replied that it would likely be in July, if all went well. If it didn't rain before the harvest, then they'll be fine. Angel thought rain was good for crops, but he explained it could ruin ripe tomatoes. Her chest tightened. She had suggested planting them, yet she feared she might not be around to see the results of her labor. Seeing her finish her tea, Aiden stood and declared, "Let's check the attic." Angel murmured softly, "Sounds good." As the candlelight flickered in Sir Aiden's hand, the door creaked open and she followed closely behind him. Her eyes traced the tall frame moving ahead. Her thoughts wandered, if she left now, but she trusted that Sir Aiden would take care of the flowers. As they climbed the stairs, a quiet worry crept into her mind. Her return to the capital might fail again. Her father's letter hadn't arrived yet either. That meant she had to stay longer, at least until she saw her flowers bloom. She assumed a negative future, but she felt strangely lighthearted. They arrived at the old wooden door and slowly pushed it open. Aiden held open the box Angel had mentioned. His eyes scanned it, noting the different flower seeds and listing their names. He said they could plant them all, but insisted that one flower should matter more than the rest. When he asked which plant she wanted to prioritize, Angel shouted, "Sunflowers!" Her voice brimmed with admiration for their confidence, the way they turned toward the sun, and the legends that surrounded them. Aiden smirked, having expected her to say roses. She shrugged, dismissing roses as too common at the House of Glaster. Aiden handed her the seeds, surprising her. "Take responsibility. They're yours," he said. Her hands trembled slightly as she whispered, "What if I kill them?" He reassured her that sunflowers were easy to grow and scratched his chin thoughtfully, offering to help. Angel's eyes sparkled as she leaned forward, her tone playful but firm. "Don't break your promise." That wraps up today's recap. Angel has her sunflower seeds, but will she stay to watch them blossom?
Will Sir Aidan finally let his guard down? And will Angel hatch a plan to escape to the capital? Find out in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next part. You can also leave a super like to help support the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next video.